So, first of all, thanks everybody for being on time. My name's James McCracken, and I'm the founder of The Successful Advisor. Though you being here is not really about spending, to hear about me per se, as much as I'm here to serve and to support and to share with you some insights that I've seen over the past few years that work well for brokers. Obviously, there's an inordinate amount of content that we could cover, but our preference is to spend some time focusing on some specifics that we believe really do make a profound difference in terms of having more progress, having more momentum, having more consistency day to day, week to week, and month to month in your business. And depending on which part of Australia you're coming in from at the moment, that may or may not be a challenge, in terms of having not just the day-to-day consistency, but also the month-to-month consistency. So just by way of a tiny bit of background, I've got my thing in the way there, but look, I work with brokers. My focus is very much around helping them increase consistency of inquiry, helping them settle more volume, helping them have more control over their business. And ultimately, when they've got better control over the business, they're in a much better position to be able to have more control and more choice over how they live their life as well. And my co-host for today is Phil. So Phil is a business specialist who works with LawLab and a product called Rundle. And whilst Phil will do a bit of an overview himself, just to put things in context around what Phil would be talking about today from a tech point of view, and why it's useful for you, more importantly, is that with the company that LawLab, or the company that Phil represents, which is LawLab, was a small conveyancing practice that was doing in the range of about 300 files per year, which is okay. But when you add a bit of tech in and you deliver a really seamless customer experience, and through Phil's business development skills and being able to articulate the value of the Rundle product, which we'll be talking about today, is their conveyancing house has gone up to about 10,000 files per year. So suffice to say, and the point being here is that with the right tools, the right technology, the right approach, you can really scale things up significantly. And we'll be walking you through the tool today so you can get a better understanding of how it works and how it can support you in terms of your business growth strategy. So, Phil, maybe you can expand a little bit from there, just in terms of who you are and
yeah, sure. You can hear me okay?
I think they can.
Yeah. So, my name's Phil Mitchell. As James says, I'm sales director for a company called Rundle, which is a tech company. I also play a sales role for a law firm called LawLab. And how this webinar came around was that James and I found that we were sharing very similar ideas and coming across very similar opportunities within the finance broker industry. And so combined with his sort of knowledge of the sales and the marketing process, and then put that with some of the technology capability we have, we thought, look, why not? Let's put it together and create an hour of sort of good content for you. So it's great to be here, and thanks for joining. And towards the end of the presentation, I'll be showing you some pointing out some of the challenges that I see as I work with finance brokers, and also pointing out how we can help. Thanks, James.
Perfect. Let's keep rolling. So really the goal, and as I said, we'll do our very best to cover off in the time that we've got some of the processes and tools and approach that you can use to go from potentially being stuck and inconsistent to getting more leads, certainly getting more clients and having more control. And all three of those are important, right? Is that, yes, we need to have more leads. Certainly we need to get more clients, which means that we convert them well. And as a consequence of that, we want to have the right structures in place that mean that when we're putting more through the pipeline, is that we don't have systems that, that compromise on that customer service proposition. Because when you can deliver a really seamless customer experience, you can inspire your customers to want to tell others about you. And I'm not sure about you, but certainly I've seen and know of brokers that do such a good job when it comes to the customer experience piece, that a lot of their business is inbound, and a lot of the business is driven through recommendation and word of mouth from their customers or clients. So just as we're getting started, a couple of things I'd like you to get. So if you don't yet have your beverage of choice, coffee, tea, water, whichever it is, I suggest you get one just so that you might be able to have a sip. It's 11 a.m, so it's probably too hard for anything else, or too early for a sort of a harder drink at this point in time, but that's up to you. Second thing I'd love you to get is a pen and paper, or you might be taking notes on your computer. I don't mind. And in terms of my style for today's session, I'm going to speak fairly quickly, mostly because there's a finite amount of time that we've got. I want to do my best to get through the content for you. And so I'd ask, instead of me trying to slow down my speeches, that if I could ask you to listen a bit faster, that'd be great. And if it's totally cool with you, and I know that there'll be some questions that come up through the session, there typically is. Let me just check in if it's okay with you that if you've got some questions towards the end as to how you can go about finding out some more about what we're discussing today and how it can apply to you, then I can point you in the right direction as to where you can go and get that information. So if you could just type in and let me know with the letter Y, if that's totally cool, that'd be good, and then we'll kick it off. Awesome. By the way, I only got a couple of Y's there, so Yep, okay, sweet. Yep, I'll say a few more. Sweet, awesome. Let's get going. So let me just check in with you. And before we kick off with our content, let me ask you, what's the hardest thing about growing your settlement volumes? Now, if you're only about 1 or 2 weeks in the game, that's a bit different, of course, but if you've been a bit longer, I'm just curious, from your point of view, what do you find is the biggest challenge for you right now? I'll give you about sort of 15 seconds. So just keep it a short answer. We don't need war and peace, but what are the biggest challenges that you're noticing at the moment? More leads, awesome. So guys, I can see there's a few more people on the call. I assume that you're close to the computer if you're there. So consistent referrals, great. I'm going to get a couple more responses and then we'll keep going. I just want to make sure what we're going to deliver for you is aligned to what some of your challenges are. Yep. I can certainly understand that one. Particularly as your volumes grow, so too do the challenges happen around admin as well. Woodview. By the way, is your name Woodview? Okay, let's keep going. So, gotcha. That makes sense. I hear this all the time. There might be exceptions when someone's new to industry, but as a rule of thumb, when people are coming to talk to me, they'll say something to the tune of, "Hey James, you know what, mate? I know exactly what to do. I know how to package up a deal, know how to get it submitted, know how to get it approved, know how to get it settled. All I need to do is get in front of more people. So if you can help me with that problem, that'd be great." And no doubt that is a challenge, right? And depending on where you're at in your business and the maturity of your business is really going to determine what are the key problems. Because if you're settling under a certain amount, then leads is going to be a challenge. If you're between sort of bigger volumes, then you always still need leads, but you also need to solve different issues around admin and support and systemization in order to make sure that you've got the right customer experience, or that more importantly, or as importantly, is that your experience doesn't get compromised and it doesn't change even though your volumes increase. And that's really important, so that when you go from 2 mil to 4 mil, or so 4 to 6 or 8, is that you still deliver the great experience that you're building your brand and your reputation around. Now, real quick, this is a guide that I started working with in about October last year. So he'd been spending a lot of time working as a pay-as-you-go employee in brokerage groups, wanted to go out on his own for quite a while, but understandably, there's a bit more nervousness when you're doing it on your own as opposed to when you're doing it for someone else. So a little bit worried about things like, am I going to get enough leads? Frankly, I've got a lot of living expenses that I need to, be aware of. I've got a bunch of ideas, but I'm not too sure which one's going to work. At the end of the day, if I put my time, energy and effort into this, am I actually going to get the rewards and the results that I want? So typically is the approach that I do when I work with new clients, we have an onboarding session where we work out, well, what are the priorities? Where's the low-hanging fruit? Where are the things that you could be doing to start with to build momentum and structure, and then we can build out from there. Prioritize the actions. In his case, and it's usually the case with most people, is you focus on, well, what are the networks, what are the connections you have, and how can you better utilize them to grow inbound inquiry, to grow volumes and grow the overall results. And as a rule of thumb, most brokers tend to be focused on creating sales through a service proposition, not because they're pushing hard for it. So, essentially doing the right thing, answering the right questions, educating the clients, taking the time, etc. So Andrew is having good success. Not every month is exactly 4 mil. I wish it was, and he wishes it was too. But certainly he's had some months like that, and his bad months are still 2.5 plus. So we're boosting volumes up, and so a year on in, he's well and truly past the point of whether he'll make it or not. But really thinking about, well, how do I get from the 2, 3, 4 mil to 6, 7, 8 mil, and so that's the conversation we're now having. And I'm not sure where you're at in your business, but like I said, when you can get the right structures, when you can get the right systems and tools in place, and you can deliver great service regardless of the volumes, then it's a good business to have. So, if you wouldn't mind just doing me a quick favour. I don't know if any of that was useful for you, but if it was, I'm just curious, what if anything, might be helpful about understanding that? If only the fact that there's other brokers out there that, where some of these challenges are happening, or for you, what else? Good. So I just noticed a couple of people are typing into the Q&A thing as well. So there's a chat function. It's probably easier to keep everything on the chat function if that's cool, because that's the place I'm looking. So yep, understanding other people are going through the same challenge. Cool. Awesome. Okay, good. So let's keep going. In terms of what we're going to cover off, we'll do our best to get through it quickly. We'll focus on some key leverage points. Just reading a comment and understanding when growth is a priority. That's an interesting response, Daniel. And I assume you mean as a priority as opposed to, say, building internal systems to support growth and making sure that when you do grow, that service levels stay the same or improved. They're not compromised, and they don't. Your service levels don't diminish even though your volumes grow. So let's keep going. So like Phil was alluding to before, we have seen a fair bit around what does work in the broker space. Having been in the industry for several years, or been around and working with brokers for several years, and bearing in mind, just to put this into context, every single client I have is a broker. So we have a pretty good smattering and understanding around what are the things that are working, right? Both in terms of offline marketing, digital marketing, structure, strategy, implementation of the right tools, creating the right levels of productivity so that you can, deliver an outstanding experience where your customers become advocates of you and advocates of your brand. And like I was saying before, depending on where you're at in your business and depending on your own personal goals, really influences the challenges you're going to have and what you need to focus on in order to get your business to the next level. Common challenges, and certainly some of the responses we got before would suggest this is the case, is not having quite enough leads coming through the door. So it probably goes back to that concept of, I know what to do when I'm in front of the client. I just need to get more of them, get more appointments happening, get more face time, and therefore I can write more loans. And certainly we've seen this. I've seen this many times. I know Phil has as well. If you've been in the industry for long enough, chances are you've also noticed that you might have had a great relationship or a great conversation with a referral partner, and for one reason or another, it just didn't quite come to fruition. And there's a number of reasons why, and I'm going to cover them off today. But what we want to make sure is that when you've got the right referral partners around you, is that we want to do everything we can to put a bit of a bridge around them, if you like, or a rope around them, so that we can build those high quality collaborative relationships where you're both working towards a common goal. And it is collaborative, it is interactive, as opposed to one where you feel like you're continually, asking for leads or continually trying to pull the person, and it's a whole lot of effort for not much reward. So we'll certainly discuss how you can address that as well. So let's first of all talk about going from, not having enough inquiry through to creating more demand. And then second of all, we'll go through and talk about how we can go from having ineffective communication and or ineffective relationships through to high quality relationships, collaborative relationships, and certainly delivering an exceptional experience, not just for your customers, but also with referral partners. And I say with as opposed to any other word, because it is that interaction together. I'm not sure about you, but certainly for some people, when you don't have enough leads coming in the door, it can be stressful, particularly when you know you're good at what you do and you know that you can make a difference and you can help people, but you don't quite have the volume or the system or the structure to be consistent around creating inbound inquiry. I notice certainly with some people that I work with, and when they start working with me, and case in point, I'm going to start doing some work with next week, in fact. He was held some extremely senior roles in the private sector, and yet as a broker, transitioning to essentially having to go from being accommodating an hourly rate through to his business right now and all of the responsibilities, he's just completely unfamiliar with what he needs to be doing, and that's reflecting in terms of how he's operating day to day, and to be perfectly frank, with the results that he's had so far. And of course, if we don't have consistency of inquiry, don't have consistency of settlements, then you get this roller coaster happening, which again, if you've been in the industry for long enough, you've probably seen some brokers that have experienced that. And we want to try and iron that out so it's a bit more consistent and it's trending upwards, because that's the name of the game. I think a really good place to start is to have clarity around what you're good at, types of people you really enjoy working with, and the potential for them to want to recommend and introduce you. So whilst in the early days, you might do work with virtually anyone that needs help, over a period of time, you'll likely find that there's going to be a sweet spot where there's a type of client, whether it's that they're first home buyers, or whether it's that they're more mature people, or whether it's that they are investors, or that they are looking to build their property portfolio from sort of 3 to 7, whichever, is that you've got a sweet spot of people that you're good at serving, that you enjoy working well with, and that that they appreciate and recognize the value that you're able to provide for them. So let me quickly ask you, do you have an ideal or a clarity around the ideal customer for you at the moment? Other than the fact that someone that wants to borrow money, do you have clarity around the people that you enjoy doing your best work with, or not? If you could just quickly type in a yes or a no, I'd love to just get a bit of a litmus test going as to where you're at. Okay, cool. So guys, as I said, there's a couple of people typing in the Q&A function. If you have a look on, and depending on whether you're using the keyboard or not, but there should be another thing there called the the chat box, and it's just easier to keep it all in the chat. If that's cool. So look, the benefit of having clarity around your ideal client is that you can improve your messaging so that instead of looking like you're trying to be all things to all people, which again, to start with, you might do that, but over a period of time, when you can really articulate a key solution for a key specific type of client, you become a lot more attractive to that segment. And whilst there's a lot of people that get this nervousness around the idea of potentially eliminating people because you're focusing on a certain person, it's interesting that in almost every instance that I notice someone who's a specialist and they've built a skill set and a reputation around a certain area, that the marketplace for the demand on them becomes a lot greater than it does when they're a generalist. So whilst there's not an exact rule of thumb around it, I certainly have noticed that the vast majority of people that specialise in a certain area never ever have an issue around frankly lead volumes or settlements. Actually, never's maybe an exaggeration, but I notice that consistently they do really well. That's probably a fair and reasonable statement. That's an interesting response about, it was someone that used to have a heartbeat, but now they've got a heartbeat and a form of income. Well, that certainly helps, right? So I used to say that they could fog up a window, which is much the same thing. The idea is to build a pipeline, yeah? So I'm a big believer that one of the healthiest things about a business is when you look at not just the volume that you did, say, in October, or maybe what you did in September, which is like looking in the rearview mirror. It's really about, well, what's coming up in November? What does December look like? And you're starting to build for January yet. And if you've got those, applications in progress or the pre-approvals, and you've got a bunch of inquiry there, and you've got a really healthy level of opportunity, well, obviously you need to nurture those people. You need to convert, and you need for them to find a property in order to, write up the loan. But I think that's a really good sign of having a healthy business, as opposed to one where you're just chasing the next deal and it's sort of minute to minute, day to day, as opposed to knowing that, the weeks out and the months out are pretty healthy. And certainly that's one of the things that I'm always looking at when I'm working with clients is, okay, great. So what did you do? What have you got? And what does next month or two look like, so that we can understand that you're still focusing on the things that are going to drive the right results. Because settlements is your bravado factor, right? But I think it's submissions and number of appointments you're doing is really a good litmus test as to what does the next month or two or three look like for you as well. And I'm sure you'll notice that if you've had a great month of submissions in October, the chances are that January is going to be a good payday for you. By the way, can you just type in real quick with the letter Y if you agree with that, or if you don't, that's totally cool. But I just wanted to quickly check with people if that's what you notice as well. Cool. Okay, awesome. So, and we want to increase settlement volumes, right? So clearly when you've got the right pipeline, like I just said, you're going to start seeing volume in, volume out. So yeah, as someone just said, pipeline's everything. I couldn't agree more. It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's the healthiest sign of a business that's moving in the right direction. And like I just said, settlements is very much around looking in the rearview mirror. We want to get them, of course, because that's what we get paid on. And you build up your trail and your recurring incomes. But very much around having the leads in place, having the right structures in place to get more appointments. And deliver that inspiring customer experience will very much be a catalyst for getting the consistency day to day, week to week, month to month. And I don't know about you, but what I notice that the more seasoned the broker is, and they're still not quite getting the volumes and the consistency, it's not because sometimes they don't know what to do. They can knock on a door and they can get in front of a potential referral partner. But there's a lot of moving parts, and there's no system or there's no structure to those moving parts. And as a consequence, it's a very reactive environment as opposed to a structured or an operational environment and an effective environment in which to work in, or an effective business to work in. So that's what we want to do, is take those moving parts and put them in a way that provides good foundation to build upon, as opposed to being in a highly reactive environment. And that can be certainly a challenge in the broking space. Probably can't see that because my thing's in the way, but what it says is, you feel a whole lot happier when you've got the right, consistency of inquiry, because it sort of takes a level of stress off the shoulders to know that, hey, we've got inbound inquiry, we've got submissions, we've got appointments, we've got a healthy business. So let's have a look at it in a practical sense. Interestingly, in the broking world, right, is, and I don't know about you, but sometimes it can be hard to stand out in a marketplace or in an industry where, quite frankly, it's hard to stand out. What do you say? You've got 21 lenders on your panel versus the guy down the road who's got 20. Or do you say something else, about the fact that you only specialize in, people that are after, or, fly in, fly out overseas borrowers, which, by the way, is what someone used to do? Or do you only specialize in people that are in professional services? Or do you only do medicos? Or as someone said before, do you do anything that's got a heartbeat and can fog up a window? But when you are clear on your value proposition and you can articulate it well and it resonates with that right type of client, it becomes a lot more compelling. And funnily enough, it's a lot easier for customers to then refer you on to other people that meet that profile as well. So, whether it doesn't matter how you go about defining your value proposition. You can see here, having structures and tools to be able to clearly help you define, how do you want to wow your clients? And, Phil will be talking about the wow factor with Rundle. And it's, it certainly forms the backbone, if you like, around the client service delivery model. But also understanding, that for a lot of your clients, I think the reality is they're not just after a home loan. They're really after a sense of feeling like they've got, worthiness about, moving into a home, that, they're acceptable by society, that they are feeling good about who they are and their responsibilities in life, and, being able to move forward and having control over their financial future. I think those are some of the things that your clients really want, as opposed to just getting a loan. I think the loan's a means to an end as opposed to the end in and of itself. It also helps when you've got a map or a structure or a guide that shows you certain things you could or should be doing at different points in the process, like we've been saying, not just to get the deal through to settlement, because any broker can get a deal through to settlement. Actually, that's, you might hold me to our answer on that one. Most brokers can get a deal through to settlement, but great brokers will also think about the customer experience piece and the potential for customers to refer them. And when I say great brokers, I mean brokers that are customer centric, because there are brokers out there that do write big volumes and they've got a terrible process around it. But they're absolutely not the type of people that I want to hang out with. I'm very much around hanging out with the people that care about their clients and build good quality relationships with their clients. So it helps, right, when you can map out the process and you can actually be clear on the things that you need to do at various stages, whether it's at the first appointment, whether it's, it's at conditional or unconditional, all the way through, in order to, again, deliver the wow factor that it's not that your client expects a wow factor, but when you do it, it becomes a lot easier for them to want to recommend and introduce you through to other people as well. Here's something that I think is a good thing to do. So when you're in the first meeting with a client, why not let them know up front that you're a referral business? Now, if you are speaking to someone that was referred to you, so the person you're in the appointment with was a referral and is a referral from another client or someone else in your network, then why not plant a seed and let them know, look, you were introduced to me through Bob. Obviously, I preferred to receive most of my clients through introduction and recommendation to other people. And if it's okay with you, I'm likely to ask after we've done the work for you, if you could think about other people you care about that I can also help, because I want to be able to focus on delivering a great service for you and also extend my reach so that I can contribute to helping other people as well. So would that be all right? That's one way to do it. Another way to do it might be to say, look, if I don't ask, and I don't ask everyone, I'd appreciate you thinking about people that you care about, so that I might be able to be recommended or introduced into them as well, because that way I can spend more of my time focused on delivering the right service for you, rather than having to go out there and find my next customer. Would that be okay? And whichever your version of how you say it is, the point is that you want to educate your clients early that you're a referral business, because it will plant the seed in their mind of people that they think about, that they can introduce or recommend to you. And notice, by the way, I don't use the word referral, and I don't recommend you do. You might, but I think you can use other words like, who else would you like to help? Who would you like, appreciate would, want to have their situation improved and have more control over their well-being, and, take 5 to 10 years off how long they take to pay off their debt. I think it's easier when you say those words, because it's easier for your customers to think about people in their network that would fit that description, as opposed to someone that's the next referral. Is that cool? Let me just quickly check in, guys. Are we still hanging out? Give me a little bit of feedback real quick. Sweet, we're all on the same page. Awesome. High five. That was the metaphorical high five. Sorry, I'm a bit daggy at times, but anyway. Let's keep going. Good. So we're all on the same page. I appreciate that. Awesome. So setting expectations. So planting seeds, by the way, is part of setting expectations. And I'm a big believer that before you get into, and someone just mentioned it there about the difference between building a relationship versus a one-off deal. So, the value of the relationship, the value of, the fact that when you do build a relationship, you'll get 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 transactions out of that client over the course of, 5 to 10 years. Again, depending on, what the transactions are, refinance, upgrade, investment property, whatever, the dollar value for that individual client becomes exponentially higher. And setting expectations helps. So when you start the relationship with a client, before you even get into the detail, you might over the phone, pre-qualify them to know they've got a job, they've got income, they've got serviceability, they've got some way to, a deposit or whatever. But once you are out in front of them and you're sitting down, instead of just, jumping straight into the meat about, hey, so done my research and here's your 3 options, let's have a chat. Have a conversation with them about, look, just before we get into the detail, and, have a conversation around, what might be some of the better options for you. I'd love to understand what's important to you when you work with your mortgage broker. Like when you think about having a really great relationship, what are some of the things that are important for you? And then your client's going to say whatever. They're going to say a bunch of things. And then you get to set your expectations, which, by the way, the one to do with planting the seed about the referrals. So if I ask, and I don't ask everyone, I'd love you to think about people you care about, so that I can, be given the opportunity to help them, just as I'll help you. That's planting a seed, right? And that's part of setting expectations early, so that as a rule of thumb, when you do this and your customers buy into your expectation, or what's otherwise known as your customer service promise, then they've essentially also said yes to you. So when you present them the loan option, 30 minutes later, and you said that your rate is 4.01, and they know that they can get it from ING at 3.97, instead of saying, wow, that's just a rip-off, you're charging me 0.04% more than what I could get down the road. Those things become a lot less important, which, by the way, if you're selling on rate, that's a dangerous game altogether. But in any case, it's much easier for them to buy into you, your trust, your advocacy, your expertise, and your commitment to delivering a great result and being the right advisor for them. So that's why it's important when you can set those expectations, because when they can buy into who you are and what you're about, it's a lot more powerful than just smashing out a bunch of options, because they might as well just go on to iSelect if that was the case, and get their options done there. Sorry, I hope you don't mind me getting a little bit passionate about this stuff, because I think that what you do can be done and is really powerful. And like I said before, it's not just about writing a loan. I think genuinely what you do changes lives for the better. And so, I want you to help as many people as possible. We want to get the timing right. And by timing right, I mean that we don't ask for an introduction or referral at the end of the first appointment when you haven't actually done anything of substance yet. I mean, you might have got their commitment, you might have got a bit of paperwork signed, but you haven't delivered a result. So I'm of the opinion, and you can have your own opinion, but I tend to think that you earn the right to ask for an introduction or a referral, or, to other people that they can help once you've done something and demonstrated your value. So that's my opinion. Happy for you to argue to the contrary, but that's how I see it. And like I've been saying, just to show this, ask for help, as in you're asking them for help. So who do you know that you would like to, see own the home 5 to 10 years sooner, and save maybe $50,000 to $150,000, or put $150,000 back in their pocket rather than paying it down the road to the bank. And I say that because, like I said before, it's a lot easier for your customers or your clients to envisage people they care about that they would like to see own or have a better, financial future, be put back in the driver's seat, and take more control over their life. Alrighty, and someone's already mentioned this point, which is about nurturing relationships. And so, for what it's worth, I'm a huge believer that that the transaction doesn't stop at settlement. I think that's the beginning of the relationship, not the end. Well, technically speaking, your first conversation is the beginning of the relationship, but I think you get my point, right? That there's 5 or 10 years or 15 years or 20 years of opportunity to build relationship, not just 30 days worth during the period where you're running around getting the deal done. And you'll find that, as a rule of thumb, you'll find that the longer you're in business, the more that your phone will ring inbound, and the more it'll be because of referrals from strategic referral partners and your customers. That might not be the case, in the first few years as much, but certainly over time, that tends to be the case. So here's a guy I worked with, in fact, just last week, right? And so it gives you an idea that when you get the right structures in place, it doesn't always happen quickly, but you can get some pretty good results, and you can get results pretty quickly. Let me just quickly check. Can you read that, or am I just thinking that is visible? You can. Cool. So, this guy was unclear, lots of moving parts, and, with structure, with strategy, and I didn't cause all 8 of those new clients to come to him, but certainly, massive difference from what, the massive difference from what he was doing before. So this is a guy I worked with as well, still am working with. And so last year had his best year ever, did about 30 mil and did okay. This year he's on track to be doing somewhere between 60 and 70. He hasn't worked an hour more, as in he's not putting in more office time to be writing, double the volume, but better system, better structure, better productivity, great service proposition, and lots of people find you. So it is possible, and he basically doesn't do night appointments, right? So this guy is, you come and see me in the office during the day. That's how I do things. Like maybe once a month or something, you might do a night appointment, but it's pretty much non-existent otherwise. And you can still run a good business with the right tools in the right way during business hours. So we've just covered off, by the way, some key points around going from not having enough inquiry and understanding that your customer service proposition is a key part of that, through to creating more demand for your business. What we're going to talk about now, and I'll hand it over to Phil, is to actually, no, before we do, I've realized there's a couple of other slides that that I need to get through, and then I'll hand it over to Phil. But certainly this idea of collaborating, right? There's very few brokers I meet where their intent is not to have, the accountant, the financial planner, maybe a builder, maybe a property developer, maybe a conveyancer on board, all part of the network. And so whilst that's the intent, in terms of their execution or building those relationships, sometimes it's very sporadic in terms of getting in front of the right people. In fact, one person I did some work with just recently, He made 250 phone calls to financial planners, and he didn't get one appointment. So he's a broker, by the way. So certainly got the work ethic to make that many phone calls, but again, not a good structure if he couldn't get one appointment out of 250 calls. So here's some challenges I notice that happen regularly with referral partners. And just to go back a step with Andy that you saw a moment ago, and with Ali that you saw a moment ago as well. Same thing like with Andrew, starting off with a structured call to understand the low-hanging fruit, the key priorities, building out the structure and the strategy from there to create consistency going forward. And so when it comes to the referral challenges, quite often there isn't a structure. There's no structure to how you get in front of the right people and or what you say when you're there in order to maintain those relationships. They can often be one way. Either sometimes the broker is just there to get the relationship or get the leads from the real estate agent, for example, or sometimes it's where you're trying to give referrals in the vain hope that they might reciprocate and go, wow, you're giving me a heap of leads, I'll give you some back. But it doesn't always happen. Sometimes it's slow work, right? Like it's, like trying to pull teeth, trying to either get in front of the right person, either they're not committed or not willing, or they're too busy. And so, you might be wondering, well, I'm actually even spending my time with the right people here. And should I be going elsewhere to, speak to someone? Occasionally, some of these people, they don't have a very healthy mindset about wanting to refer. So, they might be very happy to receive leads from you, but when it comes to, opening up the proverbial, or the database that is, to, referring, that's not, doesn't happen. By the same token, one of my clients approached a financial planner who has literally given him the database and said, and there is a commission split, so that the planner, wants them to write as many loans as possible. But again, when you've got the right approach to getting in front of the right people, now I don't think all of your planners and what have you are going to just literally give you their database or give you access to seeing the database. But notwithstanding, it can create significant opportunity when you structure things the right way. Sometimes I think this is also underestimated, is having the right level of gratitude. I got to tell you, not just in with referral partners, but I think, just to get on my soapbox for a second, in life, I think gratitude's underrated in terms of its, quality. And, when we don't have enough consistency of contact in order to keep the other party up to date as to how things are going, then, that can be problematic as well. So with that in mind and understanding those are some of the challenges, let me take Phil off mute, or you've done it yourself, Phil, it looks like. So I think you're ready to rock and roll. I'll hand it over.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, James. And I've got probably around 10, 15 minutes just to talk to you a little bit about how technology can help work closer with referral partners. If for any reason you can't hear, then just type a little message in the box, but I'll assume everyone can hear okay. Like it or not, technology is something of the future, and both your clients that you're dealing with and also your referral partners can benefit from you using technology. I'm sure there's some people right now rolling their eyes and giving it a big sigh, because the last thing that you want to be turned into is kind of IT people. But hopefully what I can show you is a couple of examples where I've worked with finance brokers in a really sort of easy way, so to help them deliver some technology benefits. Just to give you some background on Rundle, some of you may have heard a little bit about it, but it was actually born from a real world problem, which in some tech companies is never the case. So a law firm, which James referenced earlier, that I still am employed by, which existed in a very small regional town in New South Wales, decided that the only way they could grow their business was to deliver legal services across the whole country. And the way they decided they were going to be able to do that was through referral partnerships with real estate groups and finance brokers. So the pieces there was obviously some delivery expertise that needed to be made. And 5 years ago, when the delivery was worked out and the actual solution, the legal solution was worked out, we then decided to start marketing. So my value proposition as the business development lead for that solution was to go to finance brokers and real estate agents and tell them that we could deliver conveyancing in a much different way, a much easier way, much more transparent way, which would A, help them as partners, and B, help their clients. That's now, as James referenced earlier, the growth that we've had through that business, which has been 100% built and run through the Rundle platform, has gone from 300 files in my first year to the 10,000 files that we'll do this year. So that's in four years that we've been there. All of that work comes through referral partners, pretty much everything we do. So what I'm going to do now is just explain to you how I've started working with finance brokers in the same way, to help them become part of a delivery community with the partner. If I can move to the next slide, James, or do you do that? There we go. So these are my observations over the last 3 or 4 years of talking to finance brokers, and I'm not going to spend too long on these because I kind of want to get into the exciting stuff, but I thought I sort of wanted to put myself in your shoes just for a few moments. So the clients want this digital experience, and I understand that catching taxis and booking apartments in New York for a few nights is by nowhere near a bigger decision as getting a home loan. However, client expectations have changed and they want this digital interaction. What I notice is that, particularly in the finance and in the industry, is there's tons of money spent on online marketing. And maybe you yourself invest money with Google or Facebook every month to try and generate leads. But invariably, it soon moves to an offline delivery. So you may capture some leads online, but then the client doesn't really get that full digital experience. So that's kind of one challenge that I see right now, is there's a ton of money being spent in the marketing and hooking clients online, but then the delivery, there's an opportunity in the delivery. The second point is that you guys have to be wedded to the software that your aggregator or finance group gives you. And that nearly every dollar is spent on creating system of record, system of compliance, a system that manages the supply chain of a loan. So you've just heard for the last 45 minutes about potential opportunity of working with referral partners and giving clients great experience, yet very little of the money that your provider invests solves either of those problems. So that's another challenge. If I was in your shoes, I'd be seeing. And then the third one is not new to you guys, because you've always had the big banks looking over your shoulder, but there's not many days go past without us getting one of those news alerts from the industry websites telling us that there's a 22-minute home loan, or that REA are standing up a new online lending service. So these guys are spending big dollars right now, and I call this the race for online attention. So the what's driving their desire to spend all this money right now is nothing to do with delivering a good service, and I'm sure I'm not going to face too much opposition from you in the fact that would you refer a friend to the 22-minute home loan service? Probably not. However, what they are doing is spending a ton of money on hooking the client in at the beginning. So the race for online attention is happening right now. So let me quickly transition into how we've been working, and obviously I don't have time today to go through kind of our full story and what we're doing, but I wanted to leave you with some key points, and then if any of these resonate, then we can kind of continue to talk further. But number one is you guys have subject matter expertise, And you've got the opportunity not just to deliver a loan, which is a product, but to deliver a complete experience. So what I mean, how do you measure what is this customer experience everyone talks about? How do you deliver this complete experience? Well, it's the difference between somebody who bought a property recently saying to you, go and use James's home loans. It was brilliant. He is amazing. He made the process so easy for me. He was there every step of the way. He gave me great advice. He led me through the process. Versus someone saying, oh yeah, you should pop down to the local broker. He's a decent guy. That's the difference between creating these brand advocates and creating these people who absolutely are going to talk up the experience you gave them versus somebody who just got what they wanted. And I think there's a massive opportunity for finance brokers to deliver complete experiences, and I don't see a huge amount of it, and I do talk to quite a few people. So what you're seeing on this screen now, just let me dive in there for a moment, is on the right-hand side, and this is one of the core screens in our software platform, Rundle, is we've brought the community together. Rundle allows you to bring the client, the real estate agent, the finance broker, the accountant together into just one space, one simple space. Now you have to remember that mum and dad have no tools. They have a phone and an email. They don't have a Podium or Salesforce. They don't have any other software. So they enter this journey to get a home loan. Probably, most of them probably haven't done it for a few years, or if they have, they can't really remember what they went through. And all of a sudden, in the current world, most of them end up being the project manager of their own transaction. They're the one that runs between the agent, the finance broker, and the lawyer to get what's needed to get to the outcome that they're after. So just one simple step in our world brings everyone together with you. And as a finance broker, it's pretty easy for you to hit one button, put in someone's email address, and add them to this secure online, almost like a deal space that will give the client a different experience. So that was kind of one thing that I just wanted to point out there. The other thing here is that on that participants, I don't know if you guys have ever delivered kind of a good service to a client, or what you thought was a great service, and that client was introduced to you by, say, a local real estate agent, but you've never got any more referrals. You thought, look, I thought that went pretty well, and I thought I'd got on well, and I phoned Phil and let him know that I got the lead and I did the deal, but never got any more. And again, it's because those guys are getting hit up every day by the man who's making 250 calls and not getting an appointment, but they don't have anything really special to say, or they don't have anything that when they do have a client, they don't have anything that's kind of different in the way they deliver it. Now, I know that if you were to deliver a loan and a client, if you were to take a client on a journey to buy a property and that client was referred to you from a real estate agent and they got updates and notifications through a system such as the page you're looking at, I know that there's no one else that would be offering that, and I know that they would see that as great transparency and it's a great touch point. So I think there's a good opportunity here for you as finance brokers to deliver more of a complete experience and not just a loan. The second screen I'm just going to talk through, and yeah, that's the one, and I'll be quick because I know we're kind of running out of time. But it's the process and being transparent. And again, I don't know if you yourself have ever introduced a client to a partner and never heard anything again. So, and you don't really know, did it go well? Did they even turn out to a client? Oh yeah, I remember referring someone. So here again is like a very simple view of one of our screens in Rundle about how everyone sees this is the process that we're all going to follow. People love ticking steps. They love seeing dates. They love getting notifications when stuff's happened. Simple, clear communications. And then I guess there's a bit of a summary. I sort of kind of just wanted to create 3 sort of messages for you around kind of, I suppose, why you'd talk to me or why you'd sort of look deeper into Rundle. So we think you've got the opportunity to deliver great experiences, and that will equal not just good reviews and likes on your Facebook page, but it will create you partner and client advocates. We think that transparency brings less delays and less stress and a more enjoyable transaction. And then we believe, and we've seen that there's a reduction in the admin time. So thanks, James. I think we've got 60 seconds, so I'll hand back over to you.
Now, we might be a little bit more than 60 seconds, but we'll see how we go. But certainly, I hope for the benefit of everyone on the call. And let me just quickly check in for those people, the audience right now. With what Phil just said, did that resonate in terms of understanding that idea of having a system and a process that can allow for a great customer experience and can allow everyone to be on the same page, so that you're not, like Phil said, the client doesn't have to become their own project manager by trying to wrangle everybody together, which no doubt is, problematic, right? Like they're probably already stressed enough. And if I think about, my own partner, like my life partner, if I had to get her to do some of these things, she would do it because she's really well organized. But I got to tell you, the stress levels would be through the roof. So, happy wife, happy life, right? So if you can, allow those things to simmer down a bit and not, reach boiling point by any means, then yeah, that's a whole different thing. So that's a bit of feedback from one of the clients that has been using Rundle for quite a while, Chris Appleyard, who is the founder of Kingston Capital based up in Sydney. And like it just says there, wants to find a complete complete solution. And, in this instance, being able to deliver it on their phone. So it goes to the heart of what we've just been discussing around, bringing the parties together, all being on the same page, reading off the same process, etc. So further to that, and we've been talking a bit about this idea of collaboration, when you combine really good technology with a really good process around how to get your foot in the door and how to communicate your value proposition and to collaborate and interact more effectively with your referral partners, and you can sell through service. And when I say sell, I mean, articulate your value. You can demonstrate who you are, what you're about, and inspire people to not just want to do business with you, but tell others about you, then you're going to get more inquiries coming in. Like this guy, 20 years in banking, few years in broking now. Last 12 months, income's increased significantly, and getting more structure, getting more control, more business funding him, and certainly even through just one person who he knew for years, but just didn't recognize how to approach this person. He ended up getting something like 27 new applications for clients, construction finance. But in any case, there was someone already in his network that he just wasn't able to capitalize on, that's now creating a lot more opportunity for him. This is a guy who was running a bookkeeping, and still is running a bookkeeping business, but bolted on the broking part to it. Reduced his bookkeeping hours by about 297 hours in the first year. That's billable booking hours, but his overall business increased by about 120 grand because he was able to get good structure, good process, good tools that meant that he could, focus on more of the profitable activities. And this is a guy you might have come across, maybe not, who was really struggling with structure, really struggling with implementation, had no problems writing or getting the commitment from the client, but everything else was a bit of a schmozzle, and was able to turn it around and increased his income by about 20 something mil in the first year, which was, the equivalent of about 120 grand extra, and grew from there. Just so the first year. Point is that when you get the right tools, the right process, the right structure in place, when you get the right priorities, then you can be really effective with what you do. So in terms of why you're here, like I said at the start, if it's okay, you might want to learn a little bit more about where you can go and get some help. So, we've looked at how to move from not having enough inquiry through to creating demand. Talked about, moving from having, sort of people disjointed through to having collaborative, interactive, high quality relationships and delivering a compelling service proposition to your clients, love to just check in. What are some of the key takeaways? What have you noticed? What have you learned? What would you like to share? What's been most useful that we've covered off so far? Or what's something that's been useful from what we've covered off so far? It's been excellent. Good. Glad it has. Yep, structures and processes are king. You know, again, there's almost always opportunities around, you know, in my case, I only deal with brokers, so that's all I know, but there's almost always people in your networks that you can leverage better, interact more effectively with, promote to become better, referrers to you, and what I call lots and lots of opportunities out there. Good. Thanks for that one. I like that comment. So we've covered a few key things off, one of which is some structure and getting more client referrals. The second one of which we've looked at is, you know, key tools and key approaches and processes to maintaining good quality, strong and effective relationships. And lastly is we've looked at, you know, delivering your service in a compelling way so that you get, you know, your customers wanting to rant and rave about you. Incidentally, we actually give our clients, well, I do, some software that helps them generate a lot more reviews on Google and Facebook in a really easy way, because when you can do that, it helps build out that reputation. It helps make you look more credible and more trustworthy, which drives more inquiry inbound. So as it says there, the obvious question might be, well, how do you do this? And, you know, is this right for me? So if you're wondering about that and you want to find out, well, you know, can you grow your volumes? Can you generate more leads? Can you do it in a way that doesn't mean that, you know, you need to double your office hours, but you can do it in a structured manner? Then let's find out. If you want to be the next case study, if you want to get more control, get more inquiry, get more volume happening, then I suggest we have a quick conversation to find out if I can help you or not. If it happens to be that I can't, then that's perfectly fine. I will point you in the direction of where you need to go or who you need to be speaking to get the results that you're after. If it happens to be the case that I can, then I'll let you know that too, and I'll suggest we have a bit more of an in-depth conversation, and we can work out how. So if you want to book it in, it's a pretty easy way to go about it. What we'll do is I'll give you a copy of the referral process map. We'll give you a copy of the slides from today if you'd like to take those away. And we'll book in a quick time, so just enough time to understand a bit about your business, what you're doing and what you're wanting to achieve, and as I said, if I can help you or not. And there's a real simple way to book it in, which is, quite frankly, just jump on here. Or if it's easier for you, is to just pop the letter Y in the box with your phone number, and I or one of my team will just reach out and contact you, and we'll go from there. So whilst you're going about either booking that in, might be a chance to see if you've got some specific questions you'd like to ask as well. So, you know, Phil and I will hang around. Phil, you might want to take yourself off mute if that's okay, and we'll see if we can answer some questions just whilst people are, you know, working out if you'd like to, you know, arrange a follow-up conversation with us. So I can see some people have typed into the panel. Other people, I suspect, will go on and book in the call, and we'll get the ball rolling that way, which is totally cool. I don't mind. But if you've got some questions you'd like to ask, fire away, and we'll do our best to answer them for you right now. Thanks, Dean. Good to talk with you too, mate. Look forward to speaking with you too. If you haven't had a chance yet, pop over and fill in the form, and we'll get the ball rolling, Dean, and have a quick chat if that works for you. Like I said, Phil and I are, Phil's off mute, I'm off mute, and we will just hang around for a little while now to see if we can answer some questions for you.
Yeah, thanks for your time, everyone. I know we've probably run a touch over, but appreciate.
Here we are, just a smidge over, just having a look at the clock there. So if you've got any specific questions to do with referrals or lead gen or Rundle as a tool, now's a good time to ask them either of me or of Phil. So in the meantime, if you're, like I said, if you want to work out some structure, some process, some tools, templates, resources that can help you really speed up the means by which you increase your lead volumes and settle more loans, and let's have a chat. And like I said, I'll work out pretty quickly whether or not I can help. And as I said before, if it feels like I can't, that's totally cool. I will absolutely point you in the right direction of where you need to be going. And if it feels like I can, then I'll let you know that too. And I would suggest that we'll have a second conversation rather than try and smash it out all on the one call. So yeah, either pop over to this link that's there, or if it's easier, just pop your details in the chat form. And I'm nodding down there, by the way, because it's like that on my screen. And we'll arrange to connect and go from there. So I'm seeing a couple of comments come through, which is cool. No questions though, so I'll just put the offer out there once again. If you'd like to ask a question, now's a good chance to do it. Or otherwise, if you just want to have a chat individually, then go ahead and book that in too. So that's totally fine if that's how your preferred approach would be. Otherwise, like Phil said, thank you for hanging out with us today. It's good for us to hang out with you too and get to know you a bit better and understand a bit more about where you're at. We hope that what we've shared has been useful and inspires you and gives you some insight around what's possible for you in terms of taking your business to where you want it to go. Getting more structure, getting more control, getting the right service proposition there, and delivering the right results that you want to your clients. So thank you on behalf of Phil and myself for the opportunity to meet with you or to talk with you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, James.
Yeah, likewise. I might wrap this up, Phil, given that I'm not seeing any more questions come through yet.
Yeah. Everyone's gone for lunch.
That's it.
Or should be.
So thanks, everyone. We'll talk soon. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. And look forward to speaking again soon. Bye for now.